We are so glad you stepped up to volunteer. We hope that this experience is an excellent for both you and the families and players you get to work with. Just remember, to be an excellent soccer coach, you first need to have a growth mindset. You next need to be able to connect with players. You need to be able to communicate well to those players, those parents, and the families and the clubs. And then finally, you need to have meaningful soccer knowledge. But you can always grow that as well. We are hopeful that you will help build our Noblesville United Soccer Club culture. This includes mastery, rewarding effort, feeding forward, saying next time you'll do better, and not focusing on mistakes, but letting players develop. We hope you'll be able to build your trustingness with your players, check in with players to show empathy, voice and choice, give them options sometimes in practices, and reflect on what you could do better as you coach. We hope you fill the emotional tank of your players by being positive, catch them being good, help them praise and cheer on each other, and have 5 positive things to say for every 1 improvement point. And finally, we want you to help you honor the game by being mindful of how you respond and react to issues. How do you seek out teachable moments for their life that go outside of soccer? And finally, how you connect the soccer to the overall life and development of the player. If you can do these things, you will help continue to make Noblesville United a great place to not only coach. Looking at the U12 rules, we now are at the point where we're playing 9v9. Our fields are bigger. We have longer halves. We're playing 2 30-minute halves. We have half times that are 5 minutes long. Coaches aren't on the field. We have goalkeepers, and those goalkeepers can play the entire game, so they can start to specialize. Now, we don't recommend that. We would still like you to probably play that goalkeeper as both a field player and a goalkeeper, because the truth be told, if you want to be a really high-level goalkeeper, you need to have field skills. You need to be able to make great passes, right? Great vision. And so we continue to encourage you, but we do allow you to have a goalkeeper to play the whole game. Goalkeepers can now punt the ball, so they can punt that ball. That ball can go past half field, and so that's now something you can work on and you can start. You'll need at least 6 players to start the game. Hopefully that's never a problem. We will have normal goal kicks, meaning that players can line up right at the edge of the goal box and put pressure on your. So you need to learn. That's where throughout all of this, you go back to the beginning videos of U6. We're trying to work on constantly building out of the back, because now you're going to get full on pressure at your goal box. We'll have throw-ins. Sometimes rethrows will be allowed based on the referee, but we don't require a rethrow to be allowed. You cannot make a purposeful header, meaning that you cannot play the ball with your head on purpose. If you do, it's an indirect free kick. There will be direct kicks, meaning that there can be a trip from behind and a player can absolutely strike a ball straight on goal and score without anyone else touching it. And we will play true offsides rules. So later in this video, you'll see offsides go over at a basic level. There's a lot of variations of how offsides work, and it can be confusing. Substitutions need to happen at the midfield line, so you'll bring your substitution to the midfield. They will wait, and then the referees, and there will be 3 of them, will then work to bring them onto the field and manage the game through that spots. We'd like those substitutions to happen at when goals are scored, on a throw-in, a goal kick, and an injury. These are pretty standard. We usually try to avoid the corner kick. Occasionally a referee will allow the corner kick, and that's their call. It's their field at that time, and they may modify that. No slide tackles across the board. We want everyone to play half the game as always. We want to make sure that players are having fun, and the best way to learn soccer is to play soccer. So we make sure they play half the game. They need to have, at this point, soccer cleats, shin guards, and the proper equipment on to play. We'll have 3 referees, a center, and 2 assistants. Our code of conduct is in effect, so we expect you as coaches and parents and players all to be respectful of each other and have fun and put fun the most. Our red card policies are in effect. You can borrow a player if you're short players that day from a player who's of the same age. And in the league, we don't want a Rec Plus player coming to play Rec Soccer. It's okay if a Rec player goes and plays Rec Plus soccer. So occasionally, if you need some players, you can reach out to other coaches, or you can reach out to your commissioner. They can help you. Get a player to come help you if you know you're going to be short that week. And then again, on game days, just where you sit and stand is kind of covered here. And again, we just want to be good sports, so we would love to keep the games closer. So if you're up by 4 goals, we would love to see you work on something else. It may be that you have to connect 5 passes before you shoot, or you only shoot with your left foot, or you only can shoot outside the box. Just find some things to work on. And then we do keep score and standings at U12, and so you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, and no points for a loss. And then the tiebreakers are your overall points you score across the season, head-to-head matches against the team, how many wins you have, ties, losses, goals against, so we want to emphasize defense over the attack, goal differentials, goal scored, and then if we have to, a coin flip to basically fill out our tournament space. The basics of offsides are a couple of principles. One, we're talking about the blue team here, and they're going to be attacking this direction. Blue team can never be offsides in their own half of the field. So I don't care what's happening as long as the team is in their own half of the field, basically saying this line back, never offsides. Additionally, the ball always creates the offside line. So the blue team, as long as they don't have any players ahead of the ball, they can never be offsides either. However, obviously there's times where you want players ahead of the ball on the field, and this is when offsides will come into play. The basics of offsides are this, is that the blue player, the attacking team, they always have to have at least 2 players behind them on the field. So in this case, we have the number 1 goalkeeper and the number 4 center back. So this player is a forward, a number 9. And they have 2 players behind them. So let's say they're way over here, and let's say this player makes this pass. This player would not be offsides because there's always 2 players behind them. However, if this player were to step up and then now make the pass, there's only 1 player behind the player, and therefore it is offsides. So that is the basic rules of offsides. Always 2 players. Generally speaking, it's always the goalkeeper and someone else, but it doesn't have to be. So if we were to add in a 3rd player onto this field, let's put this player down here, and this player, for some crazy reason, the goalkeeper steps up here, this player's way up here, and then goalkeeper's way out of space, and the ball gets passed here, there's only 1 player behind the ball, even though the goalkeeper's way out of position here, so this player's offsides, even though they're even with a defender and not the goalkeeper. So there's always got to be 2 players behind the ball, usually a defender, usually a goalkeeper. A couple of other situational things that'll come into offsides that you need to know is that offside is determined by the player's playable body. So at U12, for example, you can't use your head. So if your head's offsides, you're not offsides. But at U15 and U19, you can use your head. So if your head's bending across the offside line, it's offsides. I don't think our referees are good enough to ever call that call, so don't worry about it, but that's the principle of it. So what we're looking at is where is the player's feet most of the time in regards to the second to last defender is what the referee's looking at. So let's pretend this X is the referee. So they will stand ideally right along the second to last defender and look down the line. And the moment the ball leaves this player's foot is when they will determine, is this player offside? So they'll look at where their feet are and say, okay, the moment that ball got played, this player was slightly behind and therefore they're offside, or they were slightly ahead and therefore they are onsides of where they need to be of that player. So it's about positioning of this body. And so those are the most common. One other scenario comes into play is that you will get players on breakaway sometimes where the defense is way out of line and a player will be dribbling the ball and this player will get slightly ahead of this player and they'll make a pass, and that is offsides because they have to be even with the ball is the other option to stay on side. So these players can be behind these players running up the field, but they need to stay behind the ball line in order to receive a pass. The final scenario is sometimes you'll get a player take a shot and the goalkeeper saves it and rebounds it. But this player's starting position was offsides because no meaningful control occurred by the goalkeeper and the ball was saved and this player then wins the ball and immediately shoots and scores, let's say, it's not a goal. Because this player was in offside position and this player never maintained real possession of the ball before this player touched the ball and took a shot, and there's not 2 defenders between them. So there's some really basic scenarios. There's a whole lot of other ones, but these are ones that'll come up the most often. And I will add, there is no offsides on a throw-in. So a player can absolutely be here with the ball and 2 defenders, and this player can stand right here all day long and receive a throw-in, and they're good. There's also no offsides on a goal kick. So you can be offside, so a player could be near midfield, and on the other team's side of the field, there will not be an offside call in that scenario if the ball gets kicked out here, and there's no offsides on a corner kick initially. So this player can play the ball, even if these players are way up here. This player could come down here, play the ball to this player, and they are not offsides. Now, as soon as this player steps back on the field, if these players are still here, and the player passes the ball back, now it's offsides because this player was offsides when they ever touched the ball. Hopefully that helps give you a basic understanding, and then you can learn some of the more nuance as you get more involved in soccer. The first characteristic of a U12 player we want to talk about is their analytical ability to understand the game. They are aware of what's happening, they understand how to play the game, they understand the rules, and therefore you should let them try to figure out the problems on their own. Have periods of silence where maybe you just start an activity, you sit and wait, and you see what they do before you then add additional rules or information into the process. They also will start to have increased expectations on you as a coach and sometimes other teammates. It's really important that you are consistent in what you're doing as a leader. Discipline needs to be consistent, how you treat players need to be consistent, and favoritism is not shown. And then finally, they physically are growing. They're maturing, they're going through puberty. You will see very different players being the same age with very different heights and sizes, and you just need to make sure that you are starting to be mindful of not overloading them with too much activity or too physical, because it could impact them both physically and emotionally. And they will be emotional, starting to be emotional this time. They'll be having cell phones and talking on them and having little cliques of people they want to hang out with, and this is all part of their development as a person inside of the game of soccer. Now that we understand the player characteristics, let's talk about the player actions we're looking to teach. So it's always building on each other, and it's always focused on the 4 phases of soccer: attacking, defending, and the transitional moments between the two. As you can see, as we work through our different age divisions, we keep adding some additional options. So we've talked about shooting, passing, dribbling, spreading out, creating passing opportunities, supporting the attack, creating those 2v1s, those 1v1s, changing the point of the attack, and now we're going to talk about changing the pace and the rhythm, which is simply, do we always want to go 100% of the time full speed, or do we want to find and utilize different speeds of play based on situations? Sometimes it makes a lot of sense to slow it down. Sometimes it makes sense to attack quickly, and you understand when and how to do that. And do we understand the concept of switching positions? Meaning that if the right back, our number 2 runs up the field, and I'm the right winger, the number 7, and I see that they pass me on the field, I cover that position for them till they're gone, and we communicate about that. And so that's the idea of switching positions. Same thing on the defensive side. We talked about protecting the goal, stealing the ball, making it compact, keeping it compact, pressure, cover, balance, and outnumbering the opponent. And now the concept is staying involved. Staying involved means a couple of things. One means is that you put yourself in a position to be an option defensively to help out, and you are constantly moving and being aware, and you're communicating, you're talking. You are saying things like, you got 2 on your left shoulder, for example, helping your teammates know what's happening. And the final item we talk about is marking the player in the area, which basically means you're defending your box well and players are not running wide open with tons of space. So let's take these concepts now and let's put these into our drawing options and let's talk them through. Let's begin with the attacking action of change the pace, change the rhythm. In this scenario, the blue team, we've got 2 forwards and we have our left wing out here. I'll put the right wing on just for fun. They are watching this situation develop, and they realize that they have a great scoring chance opportunity. It's a 4-on-3, and if they get themselves in a great position, they can actually overload these back defenders and have a better chance at a goal. So this player realizes, well, there's only 1 player in front of them, and they see 3 defenders, so they may slow down instead of just driving straight into a situation where they ultimately would become virtually double teamed. Right? These people would shift over. And so they actually slow up play because they may read that this player is coming along the edge to create that 2-on-1 opportunity into that space, then to make the pass so they can then attack in and have the advantage from the number standpoint in the box to make this player make a decision. This player may drive with the ball low, looking for a player to cut down, and then utilize a cutback pass to then create that opportunity into the goal. But it all starts by the number 9 realizing that the best play with their head up is not to just drive as hard as they can at the goal because they're outnumbered. Right? So that's the difference of changing the pace and the rhythm. Additionally, it could be that this player realizes, well, they are going to drive really, really hard at this goal, and these two players realize they're going to drive hard. We have to drive hard because we need to get in a position to then provide opportunities and passes through here. And so these players have to escalate their engines of running and then playing the game faster. The other concept we want to talk about is the concept of switch positions. So we're going to bring everybody back here a little bit and talk about a situation that should happen, which is your number 2, your outside right wing, realizes that they got time and space because there's nobody coming towards them. Let's say there's a 6 here, and maybe they already beat the 11 on this end of the field. So now they have time and space. And so instead of them making a little short pass to this player, because normally they play that wide wing position, this player continues to move with the ball up the wing, and this player assumes the position of right back for a period of time, and they communicate, I've got you covered, as they go, right? And so that they can then work together to work through that space, and they can switch those positions. The next concept we're going to talk about is staying involved, so I'm going to set that up here. So in this situation, Red's got the ball and they're attacking towards goal going this direction. And so the best way players stay involved is by reading what's happening all around them. Where's the ball? Where's the player they need to worry about the most? And then communicating. So in this scenario, we would love for this defensive midfielder, number 6, to say, I've got pressure, and start to step in and probably come to the right side of this player, so this player has to be forced to their left, where it's probably their weaker foot. We would love to see the 11 player defensively to come in and say, I got cover, I've got covered. See how we make a Christmas tree setup here now? Is these players going to go directly at goal when you have this many players in this space providing support and staying involved? Probably not. Now let's pretend that though this 6 gets by, this midfielder gets by this player. We want players to stay involved by sometimes also making what's called recovery runs. Well, I got beat. Maybe the 11 came into play, but I'm going to try to run here and provide support into this space to cut off that next angle of that pass. And that's what it means to stay involved. Communicate, talk to each other, move your feet, and read the game. The final thing we want to talk about then is just marking in the box. So the truth be told, once you get to the edge of your penalty box, everybody needs someone to be touch tight, meaning you can touch them. Not with this extended arm, but I'm talking like super tight on those players, because we do not want to give them time and space to shoot. Frequently you'll see players who will just drop back towards their own goal when a player has the ball, leaving players opportunities to receive passes and take shots. Players have to be touch tight and staying in a marked position, which meaning as they move, you move, so there's no opportunity for them to have space and receive a pass easily. Again, it doesn't mean we're always going to stop a goal, but doing these steps and teaching these player actions will help them develop as an individual player that can help a team, and ultimately we want to create team players. Field locations for our U10 division is in the back western corner of our facility, southwest corner. Unfortunately, it's the one furthest away from everything, but it is what it is. Something has to be far away. There are 4 fields back here, fields 5, 6, 7, and 8. When you park, obviously, depending on games, there may be games happening here, maybe happening here, but you can park in this zone here. But there's also a grass lot here that if the weather's been okay, you can park in the grass lot, and then you can walk through and come back here and have your practices. Your practices will have 2 time slots, either 5 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. We recommend somewhere between an hour and 15 minutes for U10. And you might take your last couple of minutes of your practice just to do something fun. When I had girls at U10, we did water balloon tossing back and forth, and we pick up all our trash at the end of it. Just silly things to make them have fun, because they still want to have fun on both sides of that, along with playing soccer. But that way, if you want to use an hour and a half, you can, but you may not push them all out. We sometimes would have the parents come out, play with them for the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right? Something fun, because they're old enough that they enjoy that, but they may not be able to go for a focused practice for an entire 90 minutes. If you would like to start your practice like 5:15 until 6:30, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. Or if you like to start, at 6:45 to 8, you can do that, or 6 o'clock to 7:45. That is fine as well. You will potentially share your field with another team. If that happens, you get half a field. There is lots of green space out by those fields. You can kind of see it in this graphic here. So don't be afraid to use that green space as well in your practice time. The positions your players play at the beginning of the game is called your formation. When we get to U10, we're playing 7v7, so there is more formational choices that do make sense. In soccer, I'm showing you one on the screen right now, which is a 2-3-1, two backs, three midfielders, and a forward. But other ones can work as well. What's important in soccer is that you create lots of triangles and diamonds on the field so players can pass. And so a formation with that was what you really want. What you don't want to do is create something like this, which is all squares. This is not what you want, and so I recommend no one play a 2-2-2. We want to create width on the field and teach our players to use width as a team so they can pass the ball and connect their passes. And in this case, what we have is we have our goalkeeper, we have two center backs, so the 4s and the 5s. We have a defensive midfielder, or a midfielder who has more defensive responsibility. And then we have our left and right wings, and we have our striker up top. Now, as the ball moves up the field, so if the ball's up here, our shape will change. So it could be that our striker comes way over here, and then our forwards out here applying support, providing switch of field, our defensive mids here, and our left and right center backs are coming up the field and maybe even shifting over a little bit to provide that support on the field. That's our shape. When the ball's all the way in the box, let's say it's coming down here, we're looking to have something like this set up so that we have multiple ways for this person to pass in, close to goal, back to goal, have a backwards pass available, and we have our supporting center backs ready to play. So that'd be our shape on the attack. Defensively, what it might look like as the players come down the field and we have to play defense is that it may turn into something like this on the backside, with these players stepping up, your wing players stepping up to provide the pressure that's needed on the ball, and then your number 9 or your forward providing outlet opportunities. So this is your shape. Let's go over through a few of the unique rules to U10 and how we restart and start play. You will now see I've added a few extra lines to the field. These are called the build-out lines. These build-out lines are utilized to do a couple of different things. In U6, U7, and U8, players moved to half field when the goalkeeper had the ball and when there was a goal kick. This is the same principle, but now the players are a little bit closer up the field, so they have to move to the build-out line. But the build-out line also serves as an opportunity to create and start to teach offsides. So let's put some players on red to play defense, and we'll show you kind of how that looks. So we'll put our 4 here, and our 5, and I have those reversed. So I'm going to reverse those real quick. Smaller numbers go to the right, bigger numbers go to the left. And so we have our 7, our wingers are out here, and then we have our defensive midfielder here, and we are going to have our forward. So let's pretend that Blues got the ball, and Blues won the possession, and all of red was pushed up the field here, and I need to make that an 11. Thank you. Oh, there we go. There's an 11. Just said that red did an awesome job of getting their players up the field. Really well. In regular soccer rules, if this blue player was behind the last two defenders, the goalkeeper and second last defender, and they received a pass, in this situation, past half field, that would be considered offside. But in U10, we basically treat the build-out line as the offside line. So this would not be offsides in U10 soccer. This player is allowed to roam freely, even behind all the defenders, up until the build-out line. Additionally, if this player was slightly offsides here, but not standing there and that ball was passed all the way from here to here, this player, even though they were slightly offsides, we would not call them offsides because they're not really cheesing the system. They're just slightly offsides. And we're trying to help them help these players learn to play defense properly. Now, what we would call is if these two players were way up here, this player was outside the build out line, and this player was passed all the way up here, that is considered cherry picking and would not be, it would be an indirect kick for red going the opposite direction. Your referee will have discretion on when they call and how they call this cherry picking rule, but understand there is a cherry picking rule, but not a true offsides rule. So if your player's a little bit offsides, it's okay. Now let's talk about different restarts and starts of the play. When the ball is kicked off, players have to be on the defensive side on their own half, and they have to be outside the circle. Now there is a rule in soccer that you have to be on your own side of the field when you kick off, but practically it doesn't really apply. Frequently you'll see players put a foot over into the other team's half to then basically pass the ball backwards. And that's what I suggest every single team do. I would pass back, in this case to the 6, offensive mid, and allow these players to get out wide. So that these players immediately have to decide what they're going to do defensively and get together and spread the field. But that is how the kickoff takes place. Once the ball's kicked backwards, these players may enter the other half, and they can obviously, of course, run through the circle. When a throw-in occurs, a player must keep 2 feet on the ground, they must put the ball behind their head, and they must throw the ball over their head to a teammate. I suggest making diamond shapes off of the throw-in. And if the throw-in's in your own half, your defensive half where you're defending, I would have your wings, like your 11 or your 7, throw the ball over, and then utilize your defensive mid or your 6 as a backwards option, your 9 down the line, and your 7 coming over as an option. So the ball could theoretically be played here and then right back, and this player is not defended, or vice versa. You'll frequently see a playback. That is your best option on the throw-in. Now, however, when we get up the field in the attacking half, and let's say we're up here, you may want to have one of your backs come up and be the thrower on this half of the field. So you have an extra player in the attack, and then your defender can come back into their space here and pick up the space. That's up to you, but that's how I would do it, the throw-ins. On corner kicks, I would have your outside wings kick the ball in, and make sure you get 2 people in the box at different levels, meaning this is a level sideways, this is a level backwards, with your defensive mid ready to receive, and then your 2 backs ready to push up and opportunities present themselves to score. And then obviously defensively mark up players so that you're ready to play that way. Goal kicks are a bit different. So technically at U10 you can put the ball all the way to the edge of your penalty box area. But when you do this, you basically put players closer to the build out line with less time to build up. I would suggest bringing the ball back to the top of your smaller goalkeeper box. Bringing back your left and right center back as options to play the ball left or right, leaving a player centrally to play against the 9. And then once this ball is passed to one of the teammates, using the width to try to get up the field, with players then connecting. Oh, shouldn't go that way. So if the ball comes this way, we would go this way, with this 9 coming up the field trying to connect and players building. What I would like us not to do is to load up a ton of players right on the build out line and then all sprint in at the exact same time to put pressure on this person and get an easy goal. I would rather see us only allow the 9 to put pressure on that first pass once it's made, and then these other players play defense and wait for that pass to come, and then play defense from here so we can work on the concepts of correct team play. Because this be true, I want the players to develop. I don't necessarily want you to score easy goals. And so by playing smart soccer and working yourself through this space, we'll be in a much better space to play that team soccer we're looking for. The final thing I want to mention is the same thing applies for if the goalkeeper has the ball. So if the goalkeeper has the ball, the red team needs to back up their positions the same way. So now the goalkeeper is carrying the ball, but the goalkeeper can only throw or roll the ball. So I'd love to see us get ourselves basically in the exact same positional thing that you just saw with the goal kick, but we roll the ball to our teammate and we build out. And again, only the 9 comes to put pressures, while the 7 to 11 look to put pressure on the outside of that space, and we can build out of that space. There are tons of resources to help you plan a practice or a training for your team. Noblesville United has purchased the Team Snap Mojo content, which comes from US Youth Soccer. And when you log into your Team Snap app, you will find that based on the level of play you have, there are curriculum already built in that you can simply open up, look at, and apply. There's tons, I think there's 12 different curriculums per in there, so you have plenty to go through the entire season. The next thing is we have our YouTube channel where I have things posted that you can watch and look at, and I will post different ideas for you at different times, and I will send out emails to you with those resources. We also have a whole collection of Noblesville United Soccer Coaching resources at our website. These include guidebooks with suggested activities for different levels, individual skills, and other information. I will link to this resource in the video below. Indiana Soccer also has a whole collection of resources, so depending on which level of play you are, you can open those up and you'll be given a whole lot of different weeks and volumes, so for over 2 seasons of PDFs with different activities to run and understand. I also recommend one more. Soccer Drive provides resources as well for practice planning. I have a paid account, so mine might look a little different than yours, but for different divisions, you will find different practice plans that you can view and open up to work on different ideas and concepts. There's a bazillion more on the internet. Your only thing you really need to do is make sure you're organized and spend a little time before practice. Is that 30 minutes a weekend, just getting ready to figure out what it is that you want to do in practice this week. But it's not, you should always have things ready to go and resources at your fingertips to be successful. On game day, you should be there probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes early, and you can do a warm-up, and I have a video on warming up that you can watch if you want to get some warm-up ideas. But the way the setup will be is that you'll have parents coming around the sides. They need to be back off the field a few feet, but you will have a referee on the field, and I don't have a referee icon. Let's use this X. There's your X. There's your referee. Kind of hard to see it. But they will need to be backed away so people can throw the ball in, and we really don't want parents standing right next to the goal, right? Occasionally I walk by and there's a parent like right there, and that can't happen. We got to have these parents back away because there is space behind there. So if someone stay back, they can get pretty far off the field. It's possible that if something happens at the field and parents get too rowdy, that a referee may come to you, coach, and say, please, will you talk to your parents before I throw them out? Doesn't happen often. I've had it happen one time in my entire time of coaching where a referee had me go deal with parents and ultimately threw the parents out anyway. And that's how it happens sometimes, and right, because sometimes you just can't get people to calm down. And that's what it is. Now, your bench players will be sitting on their benches here, should be down by the build-out line with the coaches working the front line. And again, you need to leave space there for the referees to stand there if they need to, or for throw-ins to occur. When it's time to sub players, they need to report to the middle, and they need to wait till the referee calls them onto the field. They shouldn't just be running out to the field and coming on, just as a good reminder on that. Additionally, at the end of the games, obviously line your teams up, give high fives, and do all those other things that are well. Hopefully, no real issues with this. You can check with the referee, confirm the score of the game. Referees will report those scores to the club. The club will put those scores into the system, so you don't need to handle that process. Sometimes it's still fun to do tunnels and things, but that's not required. It just depends on what you want to do, and sometimes snacks are still fun for the kids as well. But that should be kind of how game day flows for you and kind of the setup of where things are. Just remember to help players spread out every single time the ball goes out of bounds, or we have a restart and play on a goal kick or a kickoff. And at the end of the game, make sure that you line your players up, have them give a high five, and if you want to pull the parents in and do a tunnel, have the kids run through it or something of that nature, please do so. You are doing your awesome job at coaching at this level of soccer when the kids are having fun and they're smiling and they want to come back the next practice and the next game. Thank you for volunteering.